Steffen, Maisie, and Sebastian, thank you all so much for joining me today to talk about Get Away. I don't know if I should say Get Away or Get Away, but either way it works. I had a blast with this movie. It's one of the most fun I've had with the movie all year. So congratulations on the film. It really worked for me.
That's awesome. Thanks, man.
I'm curious for you because, of course, the script was written by the father in the film, Nick Frost, who brings so much to the table in terms of his acting, but also the writing element of it. And I'm just curious for each of you, both as the director and then for both of you as these main actors in this film, when you first read this script, what was it about it where you're like, you know what, I really want to be a part of this and bring it to life?
I mean, for me, it was very clear. I mean, I the pitch was already all right. This is a script that Nick Frost wrote a script. He's playing the lead. You want to read it. I mean, those are lots of things that are very that I get very enthusiastic about it. And when I read it, I was just so blown away by the twists and turns. I mean, I really, I mean, I thought like, all right, the experience I'm having the first read, that's what I want to get onto the screen. So I was in straight away.
Awesome.
I think I felt the exact same. It was such a read where like you could not I couldn't put it down. I just each page felt like peeling a layer back. And I think I immediately when I finished reading it was starting to just I was so excited about the idea of figuring out who Sam was, and there was just every scene it felt like there were so many different ways you could play something. And I think that's quite unique and rare. So it was very exciting.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, kind of from that, it's like I'm a big fan of like Nick's work, and I've seen a lot of his films like growing up, and then obviously reading it, and you're like, oh, so this is firstly really hilarious, and it's got kind of this dry, dark humor that, I love anyways. And then to be like, oh, and now it's also somehow he's created this world which is so vivid and you completely buy into, and then there's also kind of disturbing and I'm uncomfortable and there's a lot of like weird stuff happening. It's kind of, yeah, I read it, I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of really awesome. And I'd love to be, able to be a part of this. So yeah, it was definitely the first impression was a strong one. Yeah.
That's what's so fun about it too is that there's like this great comedy, but then there's also this unsettling vibe
Mm.
reverberating through the entire story. Like I feel like you get the laughs, but you still are on edge. And I feel like that's a really good balance. Was that something that you were all conscious of when you were making it? Like you wanted it to be funny, but also a little creepy and just not really knowing where it would go next?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think like the genius of Ashling and Nick is like the not only are they so funny, but it's not kind of uh I don't know, there's an area between comedy and like real darkness. And not only does the film sit in that, but I think some of the best like laughs are in that like dark space where you're not quite sure if it's a joke or not. And the uncomfortable feeling and the release of tension with a laugh. Um, like sometimes you laugh when you feel uncomfortable, and it's like it's the only way you can somewhat release something. I feel like that's most of the film.
Hmm.
And when you're making a like a comedy, sometimes you really have to work also for jokes to sort of visually to make them work. But with this with these great actors, I mean, everyone is so fucking funny. So it's it's all sort of happening. So you can really focus on the suspense and on the eerie bit like visually. And that yeah, and I like that a lot, playing around with those two things and just yeah, making the sort of perfect combination of that. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I loved how Stefan, like, you didn't shy away from like when it got uncomfortable. You were like, no, like don't explain it. Just like just lean into that kind of absurdism at times. And I was lucky to have quite a few scenes with Edo, who plays Matt Larson, who is just like such a good actor. And the scenes between him and Jesse are so uncomfortable, but so great because neither of them back down from how uncomfortable it is. And getting to like just do that was just so much fun.
Yeah, there was the meowing and a lot of a lot of
That doing
interesting
that, I'm gonna give a
interactions.
straight face. So good.
Yeah, I love yes, particularly like your family in the movie and the interactions with the locals on the island, I thought was just brilliant. And the comedy that comes out of that, but also the creepiness and how you're leaning into like this folk horror like genre that we've seen in like The Wicker Man and movies like that. Like I thought, but then you're also getting laughs out of that. I thought that was really interesting. So that was fun for you all to like, was it kind of like you felt like, okay, here's our family unit, and then here's the rest of the cast, and you're kind of playing off each other constantly, and that like being the outsiders in that situation.
Yeah. I also think there was a funny I guess because Maisie, myself, Nick and Ashling were the only cast who weren't Finnish
Mm.
or were just like the English kind of, is it imports or exports or anyway, we come over and like even taking saunas and the lakes and the beauty of this country that I'd never been to before, um, in a much, much nicer and more positive way. But I you do feel kind of like an outsider when you go anywhere new. And so I think that feeling, and then this film obviously flips that feeling and makes it the most dark, kind of version of what it could be. Um, but it was, yeah, it was a very interesting dynamic, and obviously, um, uh, like having a language barrier in even when you're just out and about, um and what that feels like, and then again the like darkened version of what that's like in the film. I think was just like an interesting take to play with. Yeah.
Mm. And that kind of politeness as well of like some of the scenes that crack me up so much with Nick is where it's like, oh well, off we pop, like we're on a holiday. Thank you very much, please and thank you. And it's kind of like that kind of like there's like a like disasters happening, but it's still kind of keeping that kind of don't let them know that we're worried kind of attitude. Which just I thought was just hilarious to watch
Yeah,
as well.
I love that. The polite, like you said, the politeness of it. Like we could be literally being hunted and
Yeah, the passive
marked for death.
aggressiveness.
Yeah.
We still don't want to be rude, and we want to pay our tab, and
Yeah.
the review, the whole thing about the Airbnb and the review may not be positive. I loved that
As
was
like the ultimate threat, like I will leave a strong
Yeah.
emotion review.
Was it
That'll show.
less than favorable? So
yes,
good.
less than favorable. I love that. And speaking of like so you were filming in Finland, is that correct?
Yes.
Was it on an island then? Were you kind of like isolated, or what was that whole shooting schedule like for you all?
Yeah, that would be the perfect the logical plan to go to a small island and film this whole film, but that was not possible. We had to shoot it for all these reasons, but in this area where there was no like coastal line, so there was no I mean it's an island in the sea, and this was just somewhere in Finland in the Tampere region. But luckily there's all these lakes. But not like one island that was perfect for this film. So we had to sort of find every location and sort of stitch this all these places together and create this one fictional island, which is called Svalta. So that was that was quite a challenge, but because it was not the easy route, yeah, we got all these extra like presents. Like I mean, we found this great church near the water, and there were all these places that we yeah otherwise wouldn't have found. So yeah, it helped us out to create Sweden, a Swedish island in Finland in the
Think there's
same
also
way.
something quite special about when you're on location. You really bond. Like we were all living in the same building and like going off to work together. And it was such a small crew that you end up really, like you're trekking through a wood and people are helping different people carry stuff. And I don't know, I think there's I don't want to say like a family bond, but that you get this like real sense of kind of familiarity with everyone you're working with, which I don't think you are able to get when you have a bigger crew and more like luxury with where you're kind of shooting, you know. Yeah, it was, I think weirdly ended up being one of the things that made me enjoy the shoot most was that we were all stuck together in these most random places, like in a wood when it's pissing with rain, and you kind of bond with people.
That's awesome. And so there was this kind of like time to really feel like a family in some sense,
Oh,
as you're going through this story.
Yeah.
Stefan was saying earlier, but the first film, the first day we shot was the scene with us in the car when you first meet
Mm.
the group of us. And I think there was like because of the setup, we couldn't open the doors like we'd have to like stop and they'd have to like take lights out and stuff to like open the doors and get us out. So we just stuck in this like Volvo for like a full day together. And it was a stroke of genius from Stefan because I challenge any group of four people to be in a car for like 12 hours and then not feel like you know each other intimately.
And it was almost impossible to direct this scene because they were in this car and they were just riffing on each other, just joke after joke after joke. It was so funny, so I was laughing my ass off with the headphones. And I needed to get them to do some stuff, but I mean, this was perfect. This was the perfect kickoff for getting this family together the first day of shooting. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah,
And
we
it's so
did.
fun to see this journey that you go on. I not to give away any major spoilers, but things do certainly ramp up in the third act in this movie. And was that fun for you? The choreography, I can imagine, was quite the planning involved and everything. But just was that fun for you all to like really dive into just a lot of carnage in the final like half hour of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, without saying any
Yeah.
spoilers, it definitely is. It was fun to like play the different twists and turns of the film, and also because obviously we didn't film chronologically, so it was kind of like
Mm.
jumping between like different moments for the characters and when they're in different places, and you know, some days you kind of you were right in the carnage, and some days it was kind of an earlier scene, and yeah, it was definitely a challenge, but it was so fun to kind of work out like where are we? Where are we today? Like what's going on? Yeah.
You'd also have days, because we don't shoot it chronologically, where in the morning it's before anything's happened and you're just like do 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 and then you're like oh it's lunch and then suddenly you've got like these huge blood rigs you see like being brought in and you're like okay cool I know it's the afternoon.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and then you're interacting with these giant masks too. Like I love the whole. It's so eerie on one hand, but comical on the other, and I thought it just blended together. Quite bloody brilliantly from all of you in this. So and I know it's coming out in theaters here in the States December 6th, which will be a nice holiday gift for for horror fans to unwrap. Is there any other projects coming up that before I let you go that you all are excited for, or in the meantime we get to enjoy Getaway?
Who's going first?
I would say just enjoy this beautiful movie that we made. And yeah, I mean it's just going to be so much fun. Don't let anyone spoil anything for you. Don't talk to people. Just buy a ticket, go and see this movie. I think
Mhm.
that's
Yeah, I hope people get to experience it before I'm like sitting on my hands trying to not tell my friends anything and just be like go just go just go just trust me just go just go just go.
Yeah, I'm very excited till people have seen it, and then we can actually like talk about everything. I know my mum is dying to see it. She's like,
She knows, but have you told
I'm
her
getting
anything?
it. No, I've not told my mum a thing.
Oh my,
No, I'm
she's gonna.
joking.
Oh, I was like, that's great self-restraint. Well done.
Well, it's fun for the whole family, and thank you all so much for making it, and thank you for taking the time to talk about it. I really appreciate it, and
Thank you
it's a
so
great
much.
gift.
Thank you.
thanks for having us, Derek.